Hey, this is Jewel Tanker from the Jewel Tanker Show on Impact Network every Saturday. Or you can check out me and my family, the Tankers, on Prime Amazon or Chatter Talk Show on Fox Soul with my girls, Dr. Dee Dee Freeman, Monique, Eilert Mosley, Real Talk Kim, and Holly Carter. And you are watching Rude Rangers TV.
Everyone, I want you to understand that who you're about to meet is someone that is, the caliber of her artistry is unlike anyone you've met before. Her name is synonymous with music. Her beauty is just unlike any other artist. She's a human being. She is, there's so much, I'm tongue-tied, but I'm so excited for you guys to meet her. So let me just say, welcome, Miss Penny Ford. Yay!
Hey, what's up, girl? You know what? Wow.
Penny, my friend, you look absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. I'm just sitting up here with this COVID still on me. I try to fix up a little bit, but
baby, if this is a little bit, baby, I got a whole lot to do.
I have been in nothing but PJs and sweats for most of the year. And I've kind of enjoyed it, but it takes me a little bit to get back in step of things when people tell me, oh, you've got to put on makeup and get yourself up and going. But I'm working on it.
Hey, you look good, darling. You haven't changed in, gosh, what, the 80s? You haven't changed. You still look like your little girl pictures. You were just this gorgeous woman that everyone is now like, hey, Penny, hey.
You know what it is? I've always jokingly said my secret is I never married and I never had any kids.
Bam.
So it kind of froze me in time and
bam.
kind of kicked a little bit of that stress off. You know what I mean?
Yes, darling. Yes, darling.
But it's been rock and roll for 40 years now.
Good God Almighty. I always say amazing. I'm going to try some other words, but that's the first thing that comes to mind. It truly is amazing. Your career, the span of your career, and that you are still a chart-topping artist. That's what's so amazing. And so we're gonna let people know the Penny that I know. There's Penny, and then there's Penny, girl.
Yeah.
So here's Penny, the Penny who's my Penny. You started now. You're from Ohio.
Yes, I am from Cincinnati, Ohio. Shout out Cincinnati.
Isn't that house? Now, you're one of those child artists that you went to a artist school, didn't you?
I went to Catholic school, I went to prep school, and I went to art school.
Okay, that's
I was kind of an overachiever, and I had a whole lot of energy. So my grandmother put me in everything she could to spend up. I was in drill team, step club, musical theater, marching band, volleyball, cheerleading, African dance, tap, jazz, piano, whatever you
name it. And your parents, like your dad, Gene, he played with Benny Goodman.
Yeah, and Cab Calloway and a lot. He started out as like a big band kind of guy. So when those guys will be the guys in the back and the band stands with the, he started out as that, and then he played sax and vibes mostly and trumpet. And then he switched to production, where he worked a lot with James Brown at the very beginning.
Ooh, wee. Come on now.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. People don't understand. You come from this musical family. Everything around you is about the arts. Your brother, let's start with your sister Sharon. Sharon was a harlot, wasn't she, with Bette Midler?
Yes, she was a harlot, and then formerly of the Harlots, and then she went solo, and she ruled the dance floors.
Yes, she
for
did.
a while, quite a while.
Yes, she did. And she wound up working with Luther, well, again, Bette Midler. She worked with a whole lot of artists.
Barry Manilow.
Yeah.
All those guys were like a New York clique back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Studio 54 days, and it was a whole New York clique of people that knew each other and ran around with each other.
And then your brother, Gene Jr., he's a producer, arranger, songwriter, producer.
Yeah, yeah, and he created Kool and the Gang.
Yes, look at that.
He did, and he actually gave George Clinton his first job in the business as a doo-wop singer. What? Yeah, well, George had a pompadour, and they were singing doo-wop.
What?
Yeah, he started out doo-wop.
I didn't know any of this.
I didn't either for a long time, but George makes sure to tell me every time I see him. And everybody else, no matter where we are. The last time I ran into him was in the airport no, that wasn't the last time, but the last time out in the world I ran into him, we were in the airport in Oslo, Norway. And I wasn't expecting to see any of us in Oslo. And I saw this group of people, and they had this energy. I was like, wait a minute. And as they got closer, it was George and them, and we were kind of crisscrossing. Artists do that sometimes during festival season and touring seasons. And he just told everybody in the whole airport, including his whole band, like, her brother gave me my start. So sometimes I find out information from back in those days, even today.
That is funny. I last saw George Clinton and Funkadelic here in Atlanta last year. And when I say everybody in the audience, they were on their feet the entire show, that's the caliber of artistry that you are in, where everyone knows your songs, everyone knows and everyone is always, when your songs come on, everyone is out just partying. So yes, baby, yes. Now, your mom was an evangelist.
Yeah, my mom eventually was a pastor. Yeah, she was a pretty incredible woman. I mean, when I was born, she was a nightclub singer. And like on the Chitlin circuit. And that's how she met my dad. And but eventually she turned her whole life around, and she cleaned up 8 crack houses in the hood in Cincinnati and turned them into tutoring centers for disadvantaged children, and became a champion for the community. And
that is awesome.
And a pastor.
You and I, we talked about that. Your mom, and we're going to get into that because your mom is such an incredible human being. And I want people to know this about your mom when we get to it. I want to, and I'm excited for people to hear this side of your story about your mom. Yes, so I got a feeling this is going to be a multi-episode interview. I got a feeling, because there's so much, there is so much about you and your work and your worth that people need to know.
Well, I'm kind of an introvert, so I don't talk to a whole lot of people, but I'm freely opening up myself to you.
Oh, thank you, darling. I'm just so honored. I really am. And I, like I've told you in the past, that everyone that I interview, I'm such a fan, but I'm also your friend. And I
Yes.
want people to know the side of you that I want them to know. They know your music, but I want them to know you and how and the accomplishments and your greatness. And you know, and I you know, people have a habit of saying, "Oh, I used to listen to this," and I told you this. You don't understand. You're still on my playlist. I'm bouncing around to this, you know, to your music constantly, and that's what, and I know the audience doing the exact same thing. So
Thanks so much. You know, I mean, it's important that we know that people support us,
yes,
and now we have this technology that we can engage directly with people
uh-huh,
instead of, you know, like, because back in the day, we really didn't get the information. You know, we didn't know we could be like number one and not know it.
that's right, that's
They
right,
didn't tell us, you know.
that's right. Now, once you, what was your big break in the
Well,
music?
I'd have to say that
Mhm.
Snap ended up being like one of the more defining things of my life for whatever reason that was meant to define what I was to become. But you said what was my biggest project?
Well, no, not your biggest project. I said your big break, because I know
Oh,
everyone
my
knows
big
Snap,
break.
but people, because
Oh, yeah.
people don't
Well,
understand.
mhm.
When they'll hear you. People know your voice, and they'll hear you in a commercial. They'll hear you, you know, on an
Yeah.
album or something. And I know
Yeah.
that you had started with the Gap Band. You were a supporting vocalist with the Gap Band.
Well, I kind of was. I wasn't really singing with the Gap Band. I signed to the same label as them,
Total Experience, right?
Total Experience Records. And I found them after I had worked at Motown for a while as a demo singer. And their studio was up the street. So somehow I miraculously stumbled upon them. And I felt a familiar spirit. And it turns out what that was is everybody there grew up Kojic, Church of God in Christ.
Yes.
So yeah, so that was the familiar spirit that I felt up there. And I just kept hanging around until I got signed there as a writer. And in the process of writing a song with Oliver Scott, who wrote Keep Running for the Gap Band, I sang all the vocals for on the demo for this song that I was writing. And the company decided to sign me and include me in this massive distribution deal that they had going on, like right at the time when distribution deals were just starting to happen. So, you know, everything's a matter of, you have to have like a trifecta of things, you know, and one of them includes skill, one of them is timing, and the other is favor.
Yes. Say that one more time. Say that one more time. Don't you? Don't you? Don't you?
Yeah, you do. One thing you have to have, I not necessarily in that order, but you have to, you know, the timing has to be great. And you have to have skill, and you have to have favor.
Finally, somebody says it. People don't understand.
Another thing is a work ethic.
Yes, it is.
You gotta have a work ethic too.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
This is hard work.
It is. And you're gonna get, you know, and a lot of people don't understand. It takes some work to do.
It does.
To do it.
It does.
Now, as you were doing the supporting vocalist, you wind up working with Zap Band.
No, well, I did Zap back when I was 14, before I ever even left Cincinnati.
What?
Yeah, they were like the first big band that I went out with on the road, right at the beginning of More Bounce. And my grandmother let me, you know,
Uh-huh.
somewhere inside of her,
Uh-huh.
she knew that I was going after something,
Uh-huh.
you know. She knew I wasn't out there, you know, like squandering the time and the
Mm-hmm.
opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So she just had to have faith. And yeah, I went on the road with them when I was 14 because by that time I was already singing in nightclubs,
Mm.
kind of like this lady on this picture. You see who that
Yes,
is?
baby. I saw that. I was thinking of torch songs. I can see you, hear you singing them torch songs. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah, at 14.
Look at that. But you know it's so funny
So,
because we were talking about that oil, that Pompeii oil that that they would lay on you, and then nothing but that Pompeii. So that's why your grandmother was okay with you going on tour with the Zap Band, because you were
yeah,
greased from that Pompeii blessed oil.
yeah. Well, you know, honestly, my grandmother was Catholic,
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
but she was very, very intuitive. She
Mm-hmm.
saved my life on a couple occasions without knowing that's what she was doing. I mean, my grandmother raised me from birth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she took me out of the hospital
Mm-hmm.
when my mom had me. It was, I think, and that hospital still stands in Cincinnati, but I think that my grandmother's spirit is still banned from that hospital
Oh.
just
Oh.
because of how much hell she raised.
Uh-huh.
She came up there and raised me. She probably still, they probably got a picture of her spirit on the wall. She ain't laughing.
I guarantee you. I guarantee you. Them spirits,
So, yeah.
spirits are
So,
strong.
you know, yeah, those were my humble beginnings. But because I grew up in Ohio and I was around people like Bootsy Collins,
Mm-hmm.
Lakeside,
Come on
Ohio
now.
players,
Come on now. I was waiting on you to say that.
Yeah.
Come on now. Whoa.
Slave,
Players. Mhm.
Midnight Star,
Yes.
Roy
SOS
Ayers.
band. Yeah. Oh yes. Norman
There's a lot
Connors
of
too,
people
right?
around.
Norman
Huh?
Connors. Norman Connors.
You know what? I don't know if you know, he's been popping up lately
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, a friend of mine was telling me that they were listening to You Are My Starship.
Uh-huh.
So I was telling them my sister Sharon sang on something with Norman Connors. I just remember.
Uh-huh.
And I looked it up. She's singing on You Are My Starship.
Yes, she is. Yes, she
So
is.
it's so weird. I've been listening to that for years, you know, and get
Oh.
into it at the basement parties.
Oh,
I never knew that was the actual song she sang on.
oh. But you see, and I explained this in another interview of mine, and this is what music does. Music, it's beyond spiritual effect on people. And I know me, when I'm needing a lift, or if I'm, you know, having a bad time and I put some music on, and it changes my whole demeanor. It changes everything. It has a chemical reaction. And
That's what we do. It
Yes.
certainly does. That's very true. I mean,
Yes.
what we do is we create tones and vibrations that
Mhm.
seep into the serotonin levels of people.
Yes, it does.
And that's very powerful.
Mhm.
And you can either use those powers for good
Mhm.
or for the dark side.
That's right.
And that's kind of the dilemma we're in right now.
Yes.
Is bringing the music back to something that empowers people and makes them feel better, instead of music that makes everybody angry and want to go out and rob somebody.
Right.
You know,
Right.
These images that they allowed
Mhm.
to seep into and overpower the art.
Yes.
You know, it's the same energy that seeped into the church,
Yeah.
that seeped into governments,
Yes.
that seeped into the banking industry.
Mhm.
It's definitely an energy that has infiltrated every sector of life.
Yes, it
And
has.
we have to stay alert, and we have to stay aware
Yes,
of
right.
what's going on, because that's the only way we'll be able to keep ourselves fit enough to survive whatever they got.
That's
whatever
right.
they're throwing at us, you know.
That whatever level of Jumanji we in.
And they've been throwing stuff. We've been ducking and dodging, you know.
We have been.
We just have to keep, doing that kind of thing for the most
But
part.
I will say that when you touched upon something about you and the artists that you've worked with, that most of them they came from the church. And it's that Pompeii blessed oil, that Earl that we worked on, that our parents, that blessed oil that they put on us, no matter what we've encountered outside of the church, we always come back. That foundation always brings us back, and those prayers of protection always brings us back.
I mean, I knew that no matter how far out there I got, that I made sure that I always had some kind of grip on that. And I kept that with me, even if I had to go into dark places, I kept that with me. And Lord knows, I was bad enough with all of that.
Okay.
I can only imagine if I had not had any of that knowledge of spirituality and how, I was covered and how to protect yourself and things like that. So, it helped me, and I stayed in it no matter how, my friends used to think I was crazy, but I would stop my party on Saturday night because I got to go to church in the morning.
That's right.
If I'm, and sometimes they would call to go with me.
See, and that's what we're supposed to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it would generally be because something is going wrong in their lives. I'm like, they call and ask if I was going to church. And I was like, wow, what's wrong? But I took everybody to church, Jews, everybody. They knew that's where I was going on Sunday if I was able, So, I mean, it's like with the way I grew up, there's no way I could be able to go to church and I lay up there and don't go and just go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm grateful to be able to have a way to go, and a lot of people, I mean, and it's not putting an emphasis on the four walls or the institution of church. But I tell people, when they go, you still going to church, there's all kind of stuff up in there. Yes, all kind of stuff up in everywhere. Okay. Yeah. But one of the reasons why I love the Black church so much is because it's ours.
Right.
And we ain't got a whole lot. We ain't got a whole lot that's authentically ours. Right. And they're trying to commandeer all the elements out of that.
Yes, they are. Yes.
And all the little, other artists are learning all the church runs and stuff. But the one thing that they will never understand that it takes to make that pop is that Pompam girl.
That Pompeii Earl drizzling down the side, them hands that was laid on you with that Pompeii Earl.
They have not figured that out.
No, they don't.
And there's there is a palpable energy. They say you're at a summer festival and Frankie Beverly and Maze is there. The first three chords of We Are One, there is a palpable energy of
yes, it is. Yes,
40,000 Black people just eyes closed,
sitting
hands
up there.
Up.
And they sit,
you know what I'm saying?
Hey, that whole and it's that whole, everyone understands that, hey, when they hear a song that takes them back.
And that one in particular calms us down, makes us calm. I used to tell my white friends, I said, if you are walking down the street and you encounter a group of angry Black people walking towards you, if you could sing a little piece of a Frankie Beverly song, you might get away. You might save your life with that, because you're going to at least get a head start, because we're going to stop and go at least one or two, and you could get going. I was like, that might save your life, child.
Yes, because they gonna understand. They gonna give you that head dap. That okay.
Right. We're gonna do that. We're gonna at least go, hey, 1, 2, before we get back with you.
That's
you know
right.
what I'm saying? So you might be able to get a head start down the street.
That's right. That's right. And
that's just us.
you touched upon something because Kojic, a lot of singers and Baptists, a lot of artists came from the church. In particular, we talked about this Cornerstone Baptist Church with James Cleveland. There were some singers that came out of it, and I remember as a child, my mother, because I'm the baby, and I was always with my mom, and so she would take me to them revivals over at James Cleveland's church, and the singers that have come through there, James Cleveland, he doesn't get enough props for what he brought to this earth.
Yeah.
He doesn't get enough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, back in the day, the powers that be only let us be exposed to a certain amount of people. And back when I came out, it was an abomination to come out of church and be singing secular music or worldly music, know.
Yes.
And I just didn't even care because I had discovered jazz and I discovered this whole world of making music with people and combining that with what with that all I had on me.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And but back then wasn't nobody coming out of church, but now everybody's out of church.
Everybody.
In fact, that's where you go shop for your band. If you need I need a guitar player, let me go to church. I know I can find one up in there.
You better say that. I got somebody
which is kind of sad.
Yes, somebody that's coming up that yes, that's all I'll say. Yes, they go to church to get their bands. That's right. And that's where and that's where I was in church and became a part of a lot of things. And it's all because they wanted that church sound. They wanted that church voice. They wanted that church choir. That's that wall of sound that is created from a church choir. They wanted that soul.
Let the color girl sing.
Yes. And you know about, not firsthand, because people know your voice. They couldn't play that whole little, have you singing the song with somebody else's face up there.
Yeah, well, they tried that. They had the video of the power. That's not me on the video. That's a girl miming my voice. And that girl didn't even sing.
You are so right. That is very true. I saw that the other day. I was looking at that and I was like, well, why is that Penny? We know that's Penny.
Well, I think I had posted on my page, I have to send you the link, the entire story of how that happened. But long story short, they're able to get away with things like that over here because, they don't, in Kazakhstan, they don't know one black person from the other. It's as long as it's an American black and they sound American black, that's fine enough for them. And if some people, if they could sell it, they would. And the thing that saved me is that we happen to be on the same label as Milli Vanilli.
Oh, yeah.
Areola Munich. And the fallout from Milli Vanilli had started to happen, and they didn't want the same thing to happen to Snap. So they hurried up and got it.
They snapped their tail right. Yeah, they snapped their tail right.
And found me. And gave me a whole bunch of Deutschmarks.
And when you said over here, you're in Europe. You've been in Europe for many, many years.
Well, this time I've been over for, slightly longer than a decade, but I've been coming back and forth over here for, since about 1984, 1985.
Wow. And and it's amazing that the work that you've done in Europe. You have steady work in Europe versus America.
Yeah, it's true. Over here, I work. I'm booked like sometimes 2 or 3 years in advance. Americans aren't so much into European dance music. And Europeans, there's this thing over here where they're stuck kind of on the 90s. They love 90s music.
That's the best.
For instance,
music.
Backstreet Boys come over here, and there would be, if Backstreet Boys come over here, and at least 50, 60,000 people will pack it out.
Oh yeah. See, that's, and that's my generation. That's my music. That's my music.
Yeah, they love 90s music. So, and they just fill up. I just do lots and lots of festivals with hundreds of thousands of people.
Now, when did you started working with Chaka Khan? And you've actually sat in on some recordings for Chaka.
Yeah. Well, there was this thing that Chaka had. She used to call me a Xerox machine because by the time I met her, I spent my childhood learning every aspect of her records.
Yes.
Every string line, every horn line, every bass line, all the liner notes. I knew who was singing what, where, everything. I knew it almost better than she did. And so she used to call me Xerox machine. So sometimes if she didn't want to do something, she would send me to do it, and they wouldn't be so upset that they didn't have her. You know what I mean?
Because your voice is something else.
But I was just in there having fun, She would go in at one point. She one project she went in. She told him, she said, "I'm only going to sing this once, and then I'm out of here." She said, "If you want some more vocals, call Penny."
Okay.
And they called me. I came in there. It was like being at an amusement park of vocals for me. I got this one Chaka track, and I get to build around it. That was like playing with vocal Legos for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am. And just to be able to, for me, I sit there and I'm like, Chaka Khan is still that one artist that I'm still in the Chaka Khan. I'm like, that's Chaka Khan standing right there. And I've told you a story about Chaka Khan and Flavor Flav that we'll save for another time. So I'm standing there in awe, and I see everyone around. I'm in the room, and everyone's like, call me by a government name, and I'm like, but that's Chaka Khan. And I was a little afraid to approach her and talk to her, but to see, because I'm such a fan of hers, such a fan, and to know that you're on the same caliber with Chaka.
No.
In my book. No. In my book.
No,
and
she's
my book
like
matters.
So much bigger and broader and smarter and everything. She's my muse,
Yes.
Even before I had, like, when I came to LA, I didn't have any aspirations of being an artist or being out front at all. The only thing I wanted to do was meet Chaka Khan. And it took me many years. I had already made an album. I had already took over for the lead singer of Climax, and then took over for the lead singer of SOS Band and all that stuff before I met Chaka. And then by the time I met her, my destiny had been fulfilled. And that's my girl to this day. We are like this.
Yeah, and I know this, and I'm just like, that's why I'm like, I'm not worthy. But I know you. You were doing Soul to Soul too, the group Soul to Soul.
Yes, I did 3 albums with Soul to Soul. I worked with them a lot. I worked with Jazzy a lot on some other things as well. There's a remix of Johnny Gill's Wrap My Body Tight that I did all the female vocals with Jazzy producing.
You
It's
know
out
what?
there. You have to look for
It is out there. I know. I'm telling you, I'd pick your voice out of anything.
I know,
That's how I
yeah.
know.
That's funny because that's become the new thing. It's like, can you find the Penny Ford voice? Because so many of my friends, you know, have told me over the years, they've almost got into actual physical fights.
Yeah.
Telling people, I know no, it ain't. That's somebody else.
Two-piece people.
I
You be ready to
know.
two-piece people. Yes. No, Penny's voice. I'm like, don't make me. I'm going to throw you and have you prostrate. Don't make me.
I'm so sorry that y'all have to go through that. You know,
No.
but part of that too is because, you know, I don't know whether it was a good thing or bad thing. I guess it was a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
That I did not tie myself down to one project or one train of thinking. So I was all over the place. I was saying front ground, background, side ground. You know, I worked with Brandy when I was in my 30s and she was like 15 or no, I was in my 20 somethings, I think, or late 20s. And she was like, you know, 15, 16. Yeah. You know, that's me. Speaking of, you know, recognizing my voice, I know there's one thing you might not know I was on.
What?
I have to have them put that on my, on Moesha theme.
I know it's you.
Did you hear me in there? Oh, okay.
Penny, this is
a lot of people that know that.
Yeah. People don't understand. Yes, I know your voice. I can pick your voice out of, if somebody is playing like you play all the instruments and everybody else is singing, I can pick your voice out of that. I'm telling you. That's why I told you I've had the two-piece people over Penny. I'm like, I know what I know. So yes.
But I did mostly for that because I kind of messed up that session for everybody else because I made sure, you know, because she was so bad as a singer. She was so dope as a singer. I was like, she needs to sing her own theme.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not understanding that by saying that the rest of us singers that were there were going to get paid a whole lot less. And I just didn't operate like that. I was like, I would be crying right now if this was my TV show and I sing that well and I couldn't get, you know, and I couldn't sing my own thing. So it ended up mostly on there. That's me going mo to the, A to the, mo to the, and I got paid good off of that.
Hey, go ahead, girl, go.
I got paid good off of that. Very, very good. From after SAG, yeah, I got good checks off of that.
Yeah. Now you also produce and arrange songs for some well-known artists.
Yeah, that's a trip. You know, sometimes I really have to really get in a meditative stance. And think about, you know, just what I've done, you know, because sometimes I find out new stuff, you know, if I go on what we call like an ego search, you know, where I Google myself, you know, see what else is, because sometimes there are like things that people post that I forgot about, like that Apollo thing. I hadn't seen that in years, you know.
And that is oh my God. Yes. I remember watching it that night too. And that's why I'm telling you, Penny, your songs, people don't understand that physical change, that chemical change, your songs, and then to see you up doing that dance, I'm like, go ahead, Penny. You still are this, I mean, oh God, I could just go, you know, I'm gonna go on. But
you know, now what I do is I just do my best old lady Beyonce. That's what I be doing up there. And I will throw in a little bit of, I start my show off with a little bit of old Nicki Minaj.
Say it now.
That tune she did with Well, my chick bad. My chick good. I do a little bit of like the middle of that. So in you know, my audience, they don't know what that is. Some of them know, they're like, what? But they don't know it in that context.
And
so
you come out,
I throw in a little something.
Now you arrange songs for recordings for Shaka too, didn't you?
Yes, I did that inadvertently. Because the interesting part, because the interesting part about that is right during that time, Shaka and I had kind of taken a break. You know, from it was people wanting to break apart things, and you know, you know, it was during that, but it was during that time, you know, Snap was going big, I was signing with Columbia, all that stuff was going on. So it wasn't like I was cast into a sea of forgetfulness. And, you know, I was busy, booked and busy. But I did some tunes with Natalie Cole's ex-husband, Andre.
Yes.
And
Andre Fisher.
He was the original drummer from Rufus.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And he was working on something, and a tune, a Brenda Russell tune. And they wanted me to sing the demo. And at first they told me the demo was for Gladys. So that was one of the reasons why I could do demos so well, is because I could sing like the artist that the writer was going for. So I could somehow put in my mind to put it in context, proper context, where that particular artist would understand it. And I sang that song for Gladys, and it ended up being The Woman I Am, which was a title cut from Shaka's song. And that was during the time we weren't speaking to each other. And she was like, who is that bitch singing that? She said, I'm gonna sing it just like her. I'm gonna sing it note for note, just like she's singing. Who the fuck is that? And they said, excuse my language.
That's okay, girl.
And she said, but that's what she said. And they said Penny Ford. She was like, damn.
Not the Penny Ford.
I hate her right now. Right? I hate her right now. Why have to be her? Yes. But she still did it at note for note, exactly like I sang the demo. And then I also did a tune with Andre, where I arranged the vocals for Natalie Cole, rest in peace. Gonna Make You Mine.
Yes. Oh.
So I went in and arranged those. The leads, she sang it exactly like I sang it, which is like an honor beyond words, because the little girl in me that had my Shaka Khan records and my Natalie Cole records was just like, oh my God, you know.
And did you do the same for the Gap Band?
No, I didn't do any arrangements for the Gap Band. I mean, I went in the studio, like, the thing with the Gap Band is, I mean, the president of the company would call me to come in and sing some stuff. So I ended up on a couple things. That's me on I Found My Baby. I'm the female voice, you're hearing that.
I know that. Yes, girl. Yes.
And, there's another one on Gap 8, which a whole lot of people didn't hear. It's called We Can Make It All Right.
Oh.
We can make it all right. Baby, listen. Sorry, my voice ain't going right now, but it's pretty hot. So I did sing on a few things for them, but I never really sang with Gap Band. We were just with the same label.
Okay.
So a lot of us kind of interchanged with Yarborough Peoples and their band. A lot of us interchanged with each other, you know.
Yes, Yarborough Peoples, that's another great group. Oh, I can't wait.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yes, and now you play keyboards, flute,
I do. I
bass,
do.
drums, guitar,
No, I don't
synthesizer.
play guitar. I don't play guitar actually, but
Okay.
and I'm not like great. I'm not
Mhm.
like brilliant at any of them. I
Mhm.
mean, but I play well enough to put down tracks to let the really proficient players know the idea.
Uh-huh.
But I'm pretty good for a girl. I can program some drums and throw some strings on there. And really, music of today
Mhm.
is really, that's what it's about. You
Yes.
know what I mean? That same little stuff, I was doing. That's what those tracks, I mean, especially in the hip hop world, you
Yes,
know,
that's all sampling. Yes. Yes. and beat the yes. Yes.
and even and loops, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Even when it's not, I keep say like Lil Scrappy,
Mm-hmm.
no problem.
Mm-hmm.
That pretty much it just goes dun 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 dun. You could get crunk in the club, roll through the hood, And so I got into what they were doing because that's what people.
Uh-huh.
And so it made me a little rusty in terms of my jazz chops and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of put my jazz thing behind. Well, this snap thing just kind of consumed up everything
Yes.
and made me become who that needed me to be.
Now let's
But
talk about
I still do my jazz, my Steely
Yes.
Dan and my Pat
Oh,
Metheny, and
girl. You
I'm
know
still
that.
off into that.
I love. Oh my God. Now, when you got with Snap, tell us how you got with Snap. I want them to hear.
That was a Shaka thing too.
Because that's what I'm saying. Shaka, she was supposed to do a demo for him, and she sent you in to do it.
Well, basically, I mean, here's how it went.
Mm-hmm.
They called her one night. She and I had moved to London,
Uh-huh.
honestly, to get off drugs. We didn't want to go to rehab.
Yeah.
So we came up with a brilliant idea. Well, actually, she did.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, she left me in LA at first.
Uh-huh.
And then a couple weeks later, she was like, I can't leave her there with that. So she brought me over to London and we locked ourselves in an apartment for a while. And they called her to, these Germans, we don't even know, we still don't know to this day how they got her information, but they called and asked her to be on this project. And she said, I don't do rap. You go do it. So that's pretty much what happened.
Look at that. Look at that. And therein lies the story of Snap. Penny Ford and Snap.
The whole thing. That's a whole nother story.
Yes. And then you go and you and Snap come. The line, you just have to make a sound. And then
when I got there, I didn't understand that music either.
Uh-huh.
But I'm a church girl. When they turn the mic on, you get your tambourine and you start singing something.
You better start humming. You better hum it. You better
and
make
that's
it.
Pretty much how Snap happened. All right, turn on the mic.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Start humming, start doing something. And then with Snap, you guys just took off. And it's still being played to this day. It's never out of the loop. Snap it's never out of the loop. It is constantly on play. And and you guys, in your career, you sold over 20 million records, Penny.
Well, actually, The Power sold about 90 million.
Woo!
The album, I think, sold 20 million worldwide.
Yes.
But that single, The Power, sold about 90 million today worldwide.
Girl,
Crazy.
Girl. And then, okay, and that's The Power. Then you did Oops. Oops. oops, you did that, and then what was it?
Mary Had a Little Boy came after
Yes.
that. You know, there are several of those snap songs that are still really huge over here that never really saw the light of day in America.
Really?
But yeah, but the rest of the world's so much bigger than America that it really didn't matter.
True. That is very, very, very,
You know.
very true. So, and with that success, you are still, you know, you're always Penny from Cincinnati or from Ohio.
I have to really keep in touch with her because otherwise I'm going to morph into some persona and be out there like some crazy woman out in the streets. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And Penny in Ohio is the daughter of this amazing woman who changed the lives of so many people.
She really did.
I want you to talk about that. Your mom is Miss Carolyn. She, you know, we all pray, you know, the scriptures would say, you know, we're going to stand before kings and queens and leaders and all of this. And your mom being just little Miss Carolyn had her you just explain it. Your mother, go ahead.
You know, she had a really rough, you know, life coming up. I mean, you know, she was born down south and kind of raised in North Carolina, and down there, most of the only thing, you know, job you could get, and a lot of people in North Carolina still tell you this to this day, is picking tobacco.
Yeah. Yep.
And so she didn't want to do that anymore. And so she went into the Army. And, you know, she got into singing. So she was a nightclub singer when I was born. And wild and crazy. But I think shortly after I left, I went to Japan with a band and stopped off in LA and just never left. And during that time, she was busy getting her life together. And she really redeemed herself. She did crazy things like closed down 8 crack houses in the hood and turned them into tutoring centers. And she had seniors media centers, and she sat on boards with some very powerful Republicans who ended up coming back and taking care of her when she got sick. Or they helped me to be able to take care of her and my grandmother and my family.
Right.
She did a lot in the years that she had left, and worked with a lot of people, and people still speak very highly of her. There are a couple scholarships and awards in her name in Cincinnati now, and those things will live on forever. And yeah, I was proud of old Pastor Homegirl.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And do you mind when your mom was sick, one of the well-known people contacted you, or you were in touch with one of these well-known individuals?
Oh yeah.
Yes. And
she like the opioid crisis is like the ground zero for that is right outside of Cincinnati, in Fairfield and Hamilton, Ohio. So my mother had sat on a lot of boards for, you know, eradicating the opioid crisis and fighting that. And one of the people she got to know was, he was a congressman at the time, and he's a senator now, GOP Senator Rob Portman. And she caught the attention of him, and he basically introduced her to George W. Bush, who ended up being the person who took care of my mom until death, and even after. He actually paid for my mom's funeral, and they put her away in grand fashion with a 21 gun salute, all that.
Daddy.
So It was good. It was great.
And
Great
she was so
moments.
deserving of it. She was so deserving.
She worked hard.
Yes.
She did.
Oh
She
my
worked hard to make up for it. And, I asked her, because she spent a considerable amount of time in the gutter,
Yeah.
My grandmother had custody of me and my younger brother. And especially after she lost her children, she really started to go down this spiral that my grandmother hid me and my brother from. But I was later able to ask her, like, what were you thinking about when you were in the gutter? And she said, I used to ask God why he put me in the gutter. And so all that work that she was doing, she said, now I know why I was in the gutter.
That's right.
I couldn't help these people if I didn't know what it was like to be down there.
That's right. That is very, very true.
I learned a lot of things through her and her journey, her pain, her struggle, and her triumphs. So that was amazing. I mean, I wish, like anybody else, that she'd stayed around longer, because I still had more questions and more things that have just become apparent to me, like just over this past year, this 2020, that I wish I could ask her. But, she's still around somewhere giving me the answers. I just have to look for them in other things,
Yep. That's very true. Penny, you've had the career that you have. You are an outstanding human being, and you are a testament of your mother, of your parents, and your sister Sharon, your brother Greg, and all of your family.
No, Gene.
Who?
My brother Gene.
Gene, where did I say Greg? Your dad? Where did I get Greg from? I don't know. I think the G threw me off. But either way,
that's right.
yeah. Either way, you are. I told you I'm a fan. I'm your friend, and I'm a fan. And you have an amazing career that spans years, and your music gets people up. That chemical breakdown, and folks, it will get people up moving. It puts a smile on your face. It takes you back to when you're young and in love in the 90s, baby. And I'm telling you, there's a couple of artists. There's some of your songs the reason my child is alive. So Chris.
I know that's right. Well, I have been responsible for a lot of babies being born.
Yes, baby. Yes.
That's a weird perspective when you think about that. That's like, whoa. But
and it's the truth. I'm telling
you. And we can break this up. We can do part 2. We can do as many parts as you want.
We got a whole lot to talk about. We got a whole lot. That's why I said this is the beginning of a series of episodes, because you and I have some stories to tell, and we're gonna bring some friends with us to tell.
Yeah, we have to talk about. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
I was talking to somebody about that. I'll tell you about that.
Okay, so I'm going to conclude this episode